I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Kendrick might have pulled off the finesse of the century. The finesse of the century, bruh. If you ain't watched part one of this video, I highly suggest you go watch part one after you done watching this video so you can put everything together. But bro, based on the new information we got in Lucian Grainge's response in this lawsuit, I'm not gonna lie. It puts the battle, the lead up to the battle, the moves that Kendrick Lamar made during the battle in a completely different light. And we're going to break it down. But let's read through this article real quick, okay? While claiming that Grainge had personal involvement in the distribution of Not Like Us, Drake's motion for documents from the executive also pointed to his authorship of the company's code of conduct, where it claims he wrote that UMG's leadership should be held accountable for the decisions we make and how we conduct ourselves. The motion asserts that Grainge instead has been allegedly aware and callous towards the impact Lamar's assertion that Drake is a pedophile in his lyrics and on the single artwork. It also cites the fact that Grainge publicly celebrated Not Like Us, winning they talking about when he high-fived Dr. Dre, winning the Grammy for Record of the Year alongside its allegation of Grainge's critical involvement as part of an attempt to devalue Drake music and brand in order to gain leverage in the negotiations for an extension. Okay? First of all, based on what we know now, that's just part one, but based on what we know now, that would make no damn sense because Lucian Grainge benefits heavily from Drake, and devaluing Drake basically is devaluing his own pockets. It don't make no sense. Grainge is, especially now that we know what type of contract that Drake is in, Grainge isn't having it. Given Drake's motion, I would like to make it quite clear that I had never heard the recording Not Like Us, nor ever saw the corresponding cover art or music video. That's key, okay? Once again, Grainge isn't having it. Given Drake's motion, I would like to make it quite clear that I had never heard the recording of Not Like Us, nor ever saw the corresponding cover art or music video until after they were released by Interscope Records, the CEO said in declaration attributed to him personally. Okay? Grainge is basically saying here that he had no idea what was finna be the contents of Not Like Us, of any of that stuff, right? He had no clue. Now we got to go back into history knowing this. Pusha T had a battle with Drake, okay? He said something on infrared. Well, Drake had been sending shots too, but Pusha said something on infrared. Drake got at him in Duppy Freestyle. Pusha response with Story added on, right? The thing is, Story added on was censored. And this is why it wasn't released on DSPs. The story of Added On was censored, and it was censored by Drake. Drake made sure that UMG and Lucian made sure that this song was censored. And the reason why they went and they obliged by Drake's by what Drake wanted to go down is because Drake is an extremely more valuable profit to the company than a Pusha T would be. You see what I'm saying? And it's not even in comparison. It's just like in an industry like that where an artist has built a stature of himself, especially when we're talking about numbers and all that stuff, they're going to follow the guy they're investing millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into over the guy they're not investing a whole bunch of millions of dollars into, especially when that guy does not represent the idea or the popness of rap that they want to happen, right? The popcorn, the bubble rap. You see what I'm saying? And that lets you know that Drake had the ability and the authority to censor other artists. And that isn't the only time he censored artists, but we all know that by now. Drake has been using his influence to censor hip-hop artists who say anything along the lines that he doesn't like or is dissing him or whatever. He was even able to do it with the Chains and Whip situation. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at it from that perspective and you see what was going on, right? If you're able to censor Pusha T and you're able to censor all these other artists, why wouldn't you assume that you would be able to censor Kendrick Lamar? Especially when you are disillusioned, right? Or you're in disillusion and you genuinely believe right, that Kendrick Lamar is nowhere near the superstar that you are. I don't think Drake get on these songs and just say that stuff. I feel like sometimes he might genuinely believe that. He might have bought into his own artificial manufactured hype, right? But Drake is definitely in the mindset of, if I can silence all these other people, I can definitely silence Kendrick Lamar. You see what I'm saying? I have the relationship with Lucian Grainge. I'm the one that's tapped in. What Kanye say? That's the rich baby daddy, right? When you look at it from that perspective and you look at how this battle is going, you understand that Drake doesn't genuinely believe that he could beat Kendrick in a battle. I don't think he thinks that. I think he thinks, and we've all come to this conclusion by this point, that he would be able to drop a diss track, right? Let the battle build up, drop a diss track, and then censor Kendrick Lamar so he cannot respond, right? And of course, UMG and Lucian Grainge, he would believe they would abide by that because they abide by that any other time, right? But what if, based off the first part of my video where I say this could have been planned, I think that it was a part of the plan as well to make sure that when they're going into this contract, when they're going into these negotiations with Lucian, that they recognize you can't censor anything I say. You can't censor anything that I got to say in general. I don't think Kendrick Lamar is going in and talking about I'm going to battle Drake and blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think that would have been crazy to even do. I think that Kendrick Lamar and his team are probably going in there and making sure that Kendrick Lamar has free creative expression and he can say whatever he wants. And another artist is not able to silence him. You see what I'm saying? Now, I think that regardless of how some people would say, well, it's Kendrick Lamar, of course I'm not going to be able to silence them. I disagree. I think that if that isn't a part of the negotiation, of course, UMG and anybody involved in these artists' pockets that got to answer to the higher establishment, that got to answer to the conglomerate of the government, right? They're going to make sure that whatever is being said on these tracks does not disturb or disrupt anything that's going on to affect their bottom line. You see what I'm saying? Especially when they're not the most powerful force in this thing we call America. So when you look at it from that perspective, Kendrick Lamar most definitely had it in his contract or negotiated that he would not be able to be censored or that he would not be able to be silenced by another artist. Now, Drake is supposed to know this because Drake, I know Drake has definitely in the past used his influence to find out about people's contracts and stuff like that. But I highly doubt he knew about Kendrick's contract because he's in court trying to find out about Kendrick's contract as we speak. He's asking for it to be unredacted after they send him a redacted version, right? So he does not know about Kendrick's contracts. This tells you that Kendrick's circle or Kendrick's situation is a lot tighter than a lot of other artists, right? So I believe that Kendrick Lamar and them were preparing for the battle, like I said in the video one, after they got done with the initial contract, and then we're moving forward, right? But I think knocking Drake off was always a part of the plan after they recognized that Drake wanted or Drake had an issue. I think once they figured out that Drake had an issue and started rapping in Jodeci and 5 a.m. in Toronto throwing shots at Kendrick, I think they realized we gonna take his head off. I don't know, but I think they genuinely waited for the perfect opportunity, and the perfect opportunity was after the contract, going into the transition. You got the label up, you got the rollout plan, boom, boom, boom. Now we're gonna put it on. We're gonna put it all online and go knock off Drake. And Drake was doing the same thing on the other side, putting it all online. I'm gonna try to knock off Kendrick, right? But Kendrick Lamar making sure that he couldn't be censored in this battle is what changed the battle. It's because Drake is depending on the fact that he can censor Kendrick, and therefore his game plan is only centered around one thing, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, I don't think Lucian Grainge is aware at all that Kendrick Lamar's one of his early moves after signing this deal is going to be to go after Drake. I don't think he's anticipating that. That probably wasn't going, because I think if he did anticipate that, he probably would have tried to do something about it. That's how I genuinely feel. At least, you know what I'm saying? I really do think that. I don't think that anybody, Lucian, boom, boom, all these different people, I don't think that they thought that Drake was going to lose this battle. And when you look at the way people talked about the battle when Drake dropped Push-Ups, even though Push-Ups is hot ass, the way people talked about it in real time, they was making it was very, it didn't feel real. You see what I'm saying? It felt a lot of shit was bought, a lot of shit was bots, a lot of all types of shit. But Kendrick Lamar ends up winning the battle, and it's not because, of course it's because the songs were just genuinely better, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that he responded so quickly and effectively, something people did not expect him to do because he worked slow with his music. But I think people in the industry weren't thinking because they didn't think or Drake didn't think he was going to be able to say anything. So him going and making sure he isn't censored, I think that was specifically for the sake of the battle. I think, of course, Kendrick Lamar has been able to say what he wants to say for the most part. You see what I'm saying? I'm sure he can't say no outlandish shit. You feel me? But I'm sure he's always worked for his creative direction, right? But I genuinely think him making sure that he wasn't able to be silenced in this battle was because of being silenced in his contract was because he was ready to go to battle. That's how I feel. I think he knew as long as he wasn't silenced, he was going to knock off Drake. And when you look at it from that perspective, the fact that Lucian and Grainge had no idea what was going on, right? You can't tell me that Lucian and Grainge doesn't prefer a world where the battle happens, everything's fine, and everybody goes about their day, and everybody can continue. Drake can get back to business. But the battle decimated Drake to a point where it genuinely tarnished his reputation and genuinely knocked him off. I don't think that Lucian and Grainge is happy about that. The way people think that this is going on, there's a lot of Drake fans saying this conspiracy theory and that Lucian and Grainge was helping Kendrick and all this goofy ass shit, right? But I genuinely think that they are not very happy about Drake declining the way he did after this battle and now being sued. But I don't think they wanted that to happen. I think they would prefer two motherfuckers battle, they get their money, and everybody going about their day, right? But the fact that Lucian and Grainge had no idea that this was coming, I think that's because the shit slipped through the cracks in negotiation. I think Kendrick and his team were ready to go. I think Kendrick and his team knew that if we just come into this contract, it could easily be a situation where we set up, and you see what I'm saying? It could easily be a situation like that. But I think the negotiations to make sure that he could say whatever he wanted to say helped him slip through the cracks and be able to get the most defaming shit off in front of the entire world. When rappers before this were not even able to get diss tracks out about Drake. You see what I'm saying? Not even able to get diss tracks on DSPs about Drake. But now you telling me Kendrick can drop Meet the Grams 25 minutes after Family Matters? It was a nightmare for Drake, bruh. And I'm not going to lie. It was probably a nightmare for Lucian Grainge, too. And it was probably a nightmare, even worse nightmare when Not Like Us came out the next motherfucking day. You see what I'm saying? Now, I think they still, you know what I mean? They still picking up profit from the situation. So they like, shit, fuck it. But you can't tell me that they wouldn't have rathered both artists stay intact and they both get to move forward and keep making bread for the company. You see what I'm saying? So I genuinely believe even the whole time where Kendrick Lamar is taking time away and all that shit, even that to me kind of feels like calculation. Even if it's not fully intentional, I feel like even that feels like calculation, set up, appearing to be weak or appearing to be gone. And people really started to believe that. And it created the perfect opportunity for him to pop up out of nowhere and remind niggas with the Like That verse. You see what I'm saying? I remember when the Like That verse came out, the battle felt so different versus after when Family Matters came out. You see what I'm saying? So I'm like, anyway, I do think that Kendrick Lamar got the craziest finesse off And I don't know how long, because you get close to Lucian, and I'm not saying close in like they homies or something. I'm saying you get in business with Lucian, right? You walk away with ownership of the next shit that you got going on, right? You crush and obliterate their investment, right? Their investment they've been working so long for, right? And walk away scot-free. All while dropping an album that's one of the most commercially successful albums we've seen in a minute. And you fully own it. Y'all can't tell me it was all part. I know Lucian Grainge not happy about that. And I know if he knew what Kendrick was going to do, he would have gotten involved. I really genuinely believe that. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not no industry insider or nothing like that. Y'all just, sometimes you got to remember, I'm just like everybody that's watching this. I just got a mic. You feel me? So I'm giving my opinion, my perspective on the things that we don't know for. I'm giving my opinion and my perspective. I'm giving my opinion and my perspective on the things we don't know is fact. We trying to fill in the blanks. And eventually more information will come out and we'll learn more. But be open to just, hearing perspective and then giving yours. And it's really that simple. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I feel. I think Kendrick Lamar finessed Lucian Grainge by sneaking in that, and making sure he don't get censored, using that to be able to say whatever he wanted about Drake. And crushing him and crushing their investment, and then walking off into the sunset, and then giving all that shine, all that extra shit to the niggas on his side and the niggas he fuck with. Ultimate finesse of the century. And then you go do the Super Bowl, and then you go do the stadium tour right after the moment. Like, ultimate finesse of the century, bro. But like, comment, subscribe, especially if you've been here, especially if you new here and you ain't subscribed. Just go ahead and subscribe. You enjoyed this video. You see what I'm saying? If you ain't heard the Chains and Whips freestyle, check that out. I'm gonna put it up right here so you can fuck with it. If I think that you'll like it because the people like it. You see what I'm saying? And more videos coming. We got the Sunday service video coming out tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? I'm gonna definitely give a little, you know what I'm saying, hip hop, church little. You gonna see what I'm saying? I'm gonna catch y'all tomorrow, man.